You know that moment in Avengers where Thanos clicked his fingers and half the universe just vanished? Well, Bitcoin's about to do something similar, except instead of people disappearing, it's going to be every other currency on the planet. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. Most people think Bitcoin is just another get-rich-quick scheme. They're missing the bigger picture. What we're actually witnessing is the end of money as we know it. I'm going to walk you through 4 reasons why Bitcoin taking over the dollar, euro, yen, every currency isn't just possible, it's inevitable. And I'm not talking about some distant future. This is happening right now, while you're watching this. Understanding this could be the difference between riding the biggest wealth transfer in history or watching your savings get destroyed by a dying system. So here's the first reason Bitcoin is inevitable. Picture this, you're playing Monopoly with someone who keeps sneaking extra money from the bank when you're not looking. Eventually, that money becomes worthless. The game breaks down and everyone stops playing. Now, imagine that cheater is your government and the game is your entire financial life. This has destroyed every form of money throughout history. Every civilization follows the same 3-step collapse cycle. And once you see it, you'll realize we're about to witness the biggest monetary shift in over 50 years. Here's how it works. Step 1, the sound money era. The government backs their money with something scarce, like gold or silver. People trust it because they can actually exchange it for real value. The system works, everyone's happy. Step 2, the printing era, where smart money flees. The government abandons that backing and starts printing money. They always have a good reason: war, crisis, emergency measures. It's always supposed to be temporary. But here's the key. While governments are printing, smart money quietly escapes to harder assets. Step 3, the collapse or mass exodus. The currency becomes worthless. Regular people finally wake up and there's a mad scramble for the exits. Everyone desperately flees to harder money. This pattern has never failed, not once in 2,000 years. Take Rome. They had a silver-based monetary system from 211 BC until Emperor Nero started debasing the currency in 64 AD by mixing copper into the silver. When this happened, wealthy Romans hoarded the pure silver coins while spending the debased ones, contributing to the Western Empire's collapse by 476 AD. Germany abandoned gold in World War I to fund the war. Rich Germans positioned themselves first, borrowing marks to buy hard assets before hyperinflation hit. When ordinary people were fighting over scraps of the foreign currency, the wealthy were already safe, paying off their debts with worthless paper. By 1924, thieves would dump out suitcases full of cash and steal the suitcase. It was worth more than the money inside. Britain ditched gold in 1931. America accumulated all the gold reserves after 2 world wars, and Britain lost the reserve currency status to the US dollar by 1944. And the United States? Nixon temporarily suspended gold backing in 1971 because countries kept demanding gold for their dollars, which the US didn't have. 54 years later, we're still waiting for that temporary measure to end. You see the pattern? Every empire abandons sound money during a crisis, promising it's temporary. None ever go back. But here's what's different this time. When America abandoned gold, the whole world had to follow, because the dollar was the world's reserve currency. Every country on earth is now trapped in this experiment for the first time in human history. And as even Wikipedia says, fiat currencies have no value. Here's the crazy part. We're deep into step 2 right now. When Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, the money supply was around 650 billion. Today it's almost 22 trillion. That's a 34x increase in just 54 years. But look at that vertical spike starting in 2020. We added more money in 2 years than existed in the entire economy for the first 200 plus years of America. We're not just in step 2, we're accelerating toward the cliff. And just like in every previous collapse, smart money is already moving. Tesla and MicroStrategy bought first 5 years ago. Now, the biggest government in the world just joined them. March 6, 2025, the US government created a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They called Bitcoin digital gold and said there's strategic advantage to stockpiling it before other countries do. When this government is buying Bitcoin, the writing's on the wall. Think about this. The US government, the same one that banned gold ownership, now calls Bitcoin a strategic asset. They know they can't control it, and I'll show you exactly why later, but they sure can benefit from it. Meanwhile, when I was in Sri Lanka recently, I watched step 3 happening live. Shopkeepers only wanted US dollars. They wouldn't touch their own rupees. That's what the mass exodus looks like. This same pattern has played out throughout history. People fleeing to US dollars during hyperinflation, cigarettes around World War II, even seashells instead of the usual bartering. When people can choose, they always flee to harder money. But what happens when the world doesn't want dollars anymore? What will they flee to? Could it be gold? Maybe, but it would need to be repriced by 25 times overnight to absorb all the excess money. Plus, governments can confiscate gold like they did in 1933. And a handful of banks manipulate gold prices by selling paper promises for gold that doesn't exist. Bitcoin has none of these problems. Fixed supply, nobody can increase. Digital, so it can't be confiscated. Completely outside government control. Bitcoin shatters this 2,000-year cycle. We now have money that can't be debased, can't be printed, and can't be taken away. Can you imagine losing over a third of your savings in 5 years because your government decided to print money? Because that's exactly what's just happened. Your grandparents could buy a house on 1 salary. Your kids might not afford rent on 2 salaries. And you're wondering why it feels harder just to live. Step 2 of the smart money exodus is already well underway. When the next crisis hits and regular people wake up, we'll see the mad scramble. Regular people will flood into the hardest money we've ever seen, just like they flooded into foreign currency in Germany and gold in 2008. Smart money moves first, and we're watching that happen in real time. This window won't stay open forever. But here's where Bitcoin is different from every other monetary takeover in history. Think about your electricity. Could you create a better power grid tomorrow? No, because your house, your neighbor's house, every business is already wired for the current system. To switch everyone over, you'd need to replace every power plant, every wire, every device. The switching cost is massive, and Bitcoin works exactly the same way. The miners, they're like power plants for money. Billions of dollars of equipment all running the same system. Want to switch to a different cryptocurrency? You need to convince all the miners to scrap all that equipment and start over. And look at Bitcoin's hash rate. That's basically the total computing power securing the network. It's grown over 1,000 times in the last decade. That represents billions in specialized equipment that only works for Bitcoin. Each new person joining makes switching even more expensive and unlikely. That's not a monopoly. That's just how protocols work. They are winner takes all, not winner takes most like technology companies. Microsoft and Apple can coexist. Meta and Google can coexist. But protocols? There's only one internet, one electricity system, one telephone network. Here's what's crazy. For the first time ever, you can own a piece of that protocol. Think about that for a second. What other investment lets you own pieces of the actual protocol that runs the world? If you could go back to 1995 and buy shares in the internet itself, not just companies using it, but the actual internet, would you do it? Because that might be exactly where we are with Bitcoin today. Now here's the question everyone asks. What if the government just bans Bitcoin? Here's the thing, they've tried. China banned mining, miners moved to Texas. India banned it 3 times, then gave up and regulated it instead. Why do bans keep failing? Throughout history, governments have killed every form of money using 2 methods. 1, physical confiscation. In 1933, they made gold illegal and went door to door, taking it from people. And 2, central control. Governments either take direct control of money creation, like Roman emperors debasing coins, or Weimar Germany printing marks, or they grant exclusive monopoly power to a central authority. Before 1913, private banks could issue their own currency, but then the US created the Federal Reserve, which at the same time gave them monopoly control over every currency. Bitcoin breaks both attacks. Attack 1, try confiscating something that only exists in your head. Bitcoin is just 12 words you memorize. Someone literally walks through airport security carrying $1 million worth of Bitcoin. Just 12 words in their head. Now try doing that with gold bars. Attack 2. Bitcoin has no center to control. no CEO, no headquarters. Instead, over 22,000 computers in 195 countries protect it. To shut it down, you'd need every government to coordinate at the same time. That includes China and America. Good luck with that. Plus, Bitcoin is just math. Courts have already ruled that code is protected by speech under the First Amendment. As long as there's a single country anywhere in the world that protects free speech, Bitcoin cannot be banned everywhere. Remember 2008 when Lehman Brothers collapsed and people couldn't access their money for days? Or when banks in Cyprus just took 10% of everyone's deposits in 2013? With Bitcoin, your money exists on thousands of computers simultaneously. There's no single point of failure. It's designed to survive anything, including governments. But here's the thing. Bitcoin doesn't even need to win the fight. The dollar system is destroying itself. The US pays over $1 trillion annually just on interest for the national debt. That's more than they spend on defense, and it's catching up to what they spend on healthcare. That's just interest payments on money they've magically made up. And it's getting worse at a scary rate. In a true free market, everything should get cheaper every year. Your phone gets more powerful and cheaper every year. So does your laptop, your car, pretty much everything touched by technology. And when you look at Bitcoin versus dollars over the last 8 years, you can see what a free market looks like. One Bitcoin bought a used old banger in 2017, about $7,000. Today, that same one Bitcoin buys a new Tesla Cybertruck, about $100,000. Here's the pattern. Throughout history, when people can choose between strong money and weak money, they pick strong money every time. This is Gresham's law. People always keep hold of the good money and they spend the bad money. Nixon had to abandon gold in 1971 because other countries kept demanding gold, the good money, for their dollars, the bad money. And the US didn't have enough gold. Rome couldn't maintain gold coins alongside debased coins. People hoarded the good ones. Venezuela can't maintain bolivars when people have access to dollars. Two money systems competing, the weak one always loses. So ask yourself, do you want your money to lose value every year fighting technological progress, or gain value every year benefiting from it? That choice is happening right now.
People are trapped in a jail cell, right? Screaming at their captor while the jail cell is open because you have an open monetary, you have an open protocol. So they just would walk over any single person on the planet.
Now do you see why I called this inevitable? We've just walked through 4 unstoppable forces converging at once. Each reason alone makes Bitcoin likely. All 4 together, Bitcoin becomes inevitable. Could I be wrong? Of course I could be wrong. But if I am, please show me one solid argument as to why Bitcoin won't do this. I genuinely would love to see it. And I'm yet to see it from anyone who has actually been down the rabbit hole. Look, I know I'm making this sound certain, and there are still real risks that could derail Bitcoin. You can see those in the previous video. But here's the bottom line. As long as people keep adopting Bitcoin and actually using it as money, which you can see happening in video 7, then yes, this really is inevitable. The only way Bitcoin fails to become the first ever global free market is if normal people like you and me let it happen. Plus, the existing circular economies and people already living on a Bitcoin standard today need to stop and go back to fiat. And that's just not happening. Here's Jeff to explain this in his own words.
I certainly didn't understand Bitcoin like I understand it now. I assumed it had about a 5% probability of failure. Some of the questions that people ask today, why it'll centralize, why it'll fail, I went through all of the same things. If 5,000 years we've never had a decentralized, secure protocol bounded by energy, and was this different enough to withstand the worst in us? At first, that's why I said 5% probability of failure, is I didn't think so. I didn't think, as all of these attacks came, that this could stay decentralized and secure. And then as I got way deeper, I realized because of the way the nodes work, because of the way the free market works, I actually can move my time into the system. And if I choose this, it doesn't matter what everybody else, as long as there's enough people who are choosing this, it's protected.
Yeah.
And then more and more people would do that. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing more and more people move their time into this network protocol. We are all nodes. We are literally Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And the more and more of us that are moving into it, the stronger it becomes.
The stronger it becomes, yeah.
The question is whether we understand this and are brave enough to do something about it before it becomes obvious to everyone else. We're watching the first peaceful monetary revolution in history unfold. The way I've gained more conviction and not succumbed to the FUD, which definitely will happen again, is to actually learn about what Bitcoin is. You need to watch this video here to see the explanation that clicks. For the first time ever, we might actually see what happens when 8 billion people can trade freely without anyone controlling the money. And remember, the click is coming.